So what did Jared Jones do to push his way onto this roster?
I think what all of you saw, he performed really well in spring training. More than the surface performance, though, continued progress in the work he was doing between starts coming into the game in terms of execution and usage of all the pitches. Obviously, we know the competitor, believe in him, and believe he makes our team better, by being on it to start the season. So we're excited to watch him pitch, I think, Game 3.
And you guys have had, guys like Brew, Castillo make their major league debuts, that opening series, but it hasn't been someone, this highly touted a prospect. Is this just, different expectations for the team, more competitive where you are in roster construction that, made this more of a possibility?
It's mostly about Jared Jones, I would say. I think with pitching, we can, usually be maybe a little more accurate in assessing what the arsenal is and how that's going to project into a major league game. And on top of that, we know this person and a competitor and how far he's come since signing. So I think it's mostly about Jared Jones, and we're excited. There are other guys that will continue to push. One of the things that we feel really good about leaving here is that we feel good about the team we're going to Miami with. We also feel good that we have a bunch of guys that are going to start the year in Indy that are not all happy to be in Indy, but are gonna keep pushing us over the course of the season.
How important was it for to see Jones working on some secondary pitches, but having success with those pitches against teams?
I think both. Yeah, I mean, obviously the fastball and slider are really good pitches. Those have been there for him. The curveball and changeup are important parts of the arsenal, just in terms of spreading. Spreading the options against being able to attack hitters in different ways, and he incorporated those pitches more and more as we got into the spring. Again, he's confident. He knows he has good pitches. He'll go out there first and foremost, just as Shelty says, get outs, don't count outs, and it'll be exciting to see him. He'll continue to work on his craft, even though he's now in the big leagues.
You have a couple different pitchers on this roster that have starting experience. Is there any clarity on who might fill that fifth starter role, or is that kind of maybe just by committee? Or
yeah, well, I mean, we anticipate obviously with Jared on the team, we've talked about Mitch and Martine and Marco, with as you Falter, Ortiz, Fleming. I think Shelty's already talked about the role Contreras will be in, so I'll let Shelty make those announcements in terms of who's starting which games. But we got a few other guys on the team who can start.
So it's pretty safe to assume that'll be like a kind of revolving door. Or
No, I wouldn't assume it's a revolving door at all. Just want to let Shelty, deal with the deployment.
This might fall under deployment too, but just innings wise for Jones, I think he was at about 120, the last couple of years. Are there any concerns of like a full season workload for him?
Yeah, it's an important, not a concern, but it's an important piece of how we support him this year, is being aware of where he's coming from in terms of total volume and how that's going to play out over a full season. We don't have any magic number in mind. We will continue to stay close with him in terms of, as he gets into the season, how he's recovering and what that volume is adding up to. He's really important to us long term. I think there is a step certainly that he can take in 2024 in terms of what that volume looks like. We don't want it to be 8 or 10 steps probably. So there are different ways that we can look to help him manage that over the course of the season.
And how much of a pleasant surprise anything was Henry? And maybe it wasn't because of how much he worked, but what did he sort of show you, and did it surprise you?
He did show us all the work that he did. When we drafted him, we believed that he could catch in the major leagues, that he had the physical capacity and skills to do that, and certainly the work ethic and toughness to do that. And that, there were a variety of things that unfortunately kept cropping up in the minor leagues, injuries and et cetera, that got in the way of some of the reps that he typically would have gotten. And then obviously we made a decision, last year. He didn't make the decision. We made the decision last year to call him up and put him in a different spot. So once he got the opportunity this past off season and had clarity that, okay, this is who I am, this is what I'm going to do. You know, not surprisingly, he went to work and did everything he possibly could have to put himself in a position to come in spring training and compete at that spot, and that's exactly what he did. And so I don't think it's a surprise, given what we know about him and the work ethic and anything that's been in front of him in the past, the challenges he's conquered. But it certainly was great to see. And you know, the best thing you can say is watching the games he caught. You know, at some point in the spring, we just stopped asking ourselves, well, can you do this or not? It was just more about, all right, like, we're just watching the games, and he's working with the pitcher, and feedback from everyone's been really positive. So excited about where he's at.
I had a couple more about your bullpen, Ben. Ryder Ryan and Hunter Stratton pitched well. What went into this decision making there, and just how do you think about the bullpen composition?
I think with those two guys in particular, again, competition, performance, merit, that's the key piece of it. It matters. You know, we've optioned young relievers who we believe in are talented, but those two guys, Stratton and Ryan, and some others too, they just outpitched other guys. So and they, in particular with those two cases, they both bring different things in their arsenal to the table in terms of how we can deploy them. They're different pitchers. Stratton's mix is different than Ryder Ryan's, and there should be opportunities inside a game to use them differently. So just a combination of what they did in spring and that they have different sort of pitch mixes that will give Shelty some different options.
Do we know where Paul Skenes is going to start at this point? Indy. Okay. You might not want to wade into this, but I feel like it's our responsibility to ask. The Herman article that came out, he made some comments about he's still drinking, or it has drank. Does that change how you guys are approaching anything with him whatsoever, or is it still the same?
No, it doesn't change anything. We'd go back again to what I've shared before. We spent a lot of time getting to know him, and through him directly and through people around him, and got to the point where we were comfortable and confident that he was doing the work he needed to do to continue growing, and that we had the resources that we thought could help, and so that work will continue, and we'll do that directly with him.